to my channel. So I did a tutorial on my last video based on this one here. I can't fully open it because I've masking taped this side down. Now today I'm going to show you how I created this one. I do apologise for this, but I do want to protect this page. Now all I've done to start off is I've used masking fluid, which I should have pulled out, and this is the best masking fluid I have found. I've used all different types of brands, I've used pens, and I love this stuff, and I did find it off Amazon. And to apply it I just used these rubber brushes, and they're really easy to get the dried off masking fluid off when you're finished. But yeah, I've just done a really thick layer over the top, and it's really easy to get off as well. But we'll come to that when we do come to pulling it off, and it's fun to pull it off as well. And I'm going to be just using my Cotmans. That's what I used on this page. I didn't use any of the professional Winsor & Newton or the Daniel Smith or anything, so I thought I'd use what I actually used on this page. And again, it's going to be working in layers and then using the dry, I think it's dry brush or dry paint technique as well, to create all these bits and bobs. So I'm not 100% decided on a colour scheme. I'm thinking like a green turquoise colour, I think. And the only thing that I've not pulled out is my palette. But I don't think I actually worked with the palette with this one. So let's just jump right in. I'm not even going to cut, let's jump right in. So I've got my old cloth, which I'm going to double it over. And I'm going to put here. We're going to do a wash all over of one colour first. So I want two big brushes. Just got my clean water, sorry. Pop my brushes in there, get them all nice and damp. I've pre-wet the paint. I've just sprayed some water to get them activated, and I'm going to pop a little bit more on the greens and some on the blues. So let's just get a base colour down. So start off with your water the exact same way as I did it last time. Just one layer, and we're going to let this dry in between. I don't know if I'm going to use the dryer or let it air dry. I've not decided. But yeah, just one thin layer. And let's dip straight into the paint. Now this is an oval wash brush that I used, and this is a quill brush. And let's go into this light green and then mix it with the olive green, and I just want a base colour all over of these two mixed together. I'm not using a palette, I'm just going straight into the paints. The messier the better. I want the difference in colours, I don't want them too blended together. So I'm going into separate colours and just pop it on there just to get that initial colour on there. A little bit more of the olive one. Up and down. You could go sideways if you want, but I do prefer doing the up and down. So a little bit more. We got a bit of brown in that time. Up, down, up, down. Now we just need to let this dry. Let this dry completely. Otherwise, if you're putting too much paint and too much water on the paper, it is going to start pilling, which you don't want. I'll add a couple of lines in there while I can with the lighter green. And if you can be patient like me, go off and do something else and then come back to it once it's dry. So for you, it'll be a split second. So I'm quite happy with the amount that's dried now. But just be aware, doing this technique in a colouring book, you are going to get, it's not bleed through, it's because the amount of water that we use on the page, it just goes behind the paper. It has done on this one a little bit, not as much as it has done on this one. Can you see there? It's not gone to that page though, but because I do backgrounds in all of my colouring books, it will get covered up anyway, so I'm not worried. So we're just going to do the exact same thing, but I'm not going to add as much watered down paint. I wanted it quite diluted on the first layer. So we'll go ahead and wet it again. Now I did have something on the paper, I wasn't sure what it was. I think it was a piece of scrap paper, and then when I've took it off I've scratched it, unfortunately. And this is the area that I wanted to keep the lightest, so it's there, there's nothing I can do about it. Maybe that'll add to it, I don't know. So let's get that all wet. It's sod's law, I sit down and my dryer's now going off telling me it's finished, and my washing machine's just finished. So back in with some paint, but like I said, I've not dampened the paint nowhere near as much, so it's drier this time. And I've popped it in a little bit of a darker green. I thought the green would look nice next to the page at the side of the blue. So start at the top and pull the colour down, and I want to do it from the opposite way around as well. If you start getting puddles of paint like that, you can just dab it off on your little tea towel, like so, and then go back in with the brush and blend it out like that. Just rinse some of that colour off. Now I want to mix a blue, like I said, I'm going straight into the pan. Just make sure that it's still quite damp, and it is, and we'll do the same again. Just pull it down, and then the next layer that we do, it'll be a lot thicker paint, and then we can go ahead and add other things. This was like a silver pen that I used on a paintbrush, so a little bit more of that blue. And then with these edges at the bottom, I'm just going to completely clean my brush, dry it on the tea towel, and then bring some of this colour down. And the way that I'm going to do it with this, I'm going to try and do the edges ever so slightly darker like I have with this, but just on the top. I want to keep the area at the bottom quite light. So let's darken the top. And I'm going to switch paintbrushes as well now to a lot smaller. So let's dampen that off, let's get some colour on there. So I'm mixing blue and the green together now. And you can see that the masking fluid is just repelling that paint. So it's doing its job perfectly. I'm not going to add any more paint to this page now, I'm just going to move it round. And then the next layer, it's going to be really dry paint that we use. So again, you're just going to have to be a little bit patient and let it dry completely. You can use your heat gun, but just be aware that it might wart your paper a little bit, so then you'll have to probably iron it. But I'll probably do a half and half, let it dry for 20 minutes or so, do a couple of other things, and then use the heat gun for the remaining time. So I'm happy with that, I'm happy with that placement. I just want to add a tiny bit of black, just a tiny bit. And just move that colour around. Just like this. Right, so I'm not going to mess around with that anymore and let that completely dry. I did end up using the heat gun, so I am going to have to iron this page now. I just lift it up, you can see what's happened, but you know, it's fine. So excuse me, the last layer, just going in with water again. I'm only going to probably bring it down to about here, so a little over halfway. A little bit more. And then I've not added any more water to the paint in the pans. I've added a little bit too much there, so I'm just going to take off that excess. So these brushes are just cheap ones that I got off Amazon, and they're different lengths. I've pre-wet these. I am going to dry them off on my tea towel, and with the longer one I'm going to go straight into the paint. There's no extra water, it's just the paint, and then use that to pull the colour down and switch my colours up. So going in with some blues, but because the paper is wet as well, that'll add to the effect. So blues, greens, just to make a lovely turquoise shade. Some more blues. I want to try and not match it, but that sort of thing. More greens, a little bit too much blue there. And then with the black as well. And it's a case of letting this dry again. And I'm going to pop a little bit more paint on, and then I'll be happy with that. I might even add a little bit of white acrylic. I'll just do this on camera. So that is not all the way dry, it's just a lot drier than it was. So in with the black and a mix of green. And this is really, really dry now. We'll carefully pull that down. I want the jagged edges, just like here. I don't want it to look perfect. Just try and make sure that that brush is as dry as it can be. Some more of that green. A little bit of the blue. The way that I did it on this one, I did all four corners, but I do just want to keep this area quite light. All the way that I'm holding the brush, I'm putting it down this way, and I'm putting it down that way as well. Not adding any more water. Just checking to see if I've got a wider brush. I'm going to try this one as well. So I will have to pre-dampen this and then wipe it off on the tea towel and then into the paint. Just like that. Now let's dry this now. So while that is still drying, I'm going to get my colour all paints out. I think I'm going to stick with this one because I want the silvers. No, you know, these two shades, I think. Maybe them three. So let's get these wet and then I'll carry on drying the rest of that page. I think if I use white, it might be too much because I would have had the white coming from down here and I want to keep that completely empty. So if I use the silver, it'll give the same effect. I think it'll go a bit better. So let's get our brushes ready. I'll use that one and that one. Just make sure that they're clean in the water. And let's dry them off. Get our paints in frame. Let's start off with the lightest one first. Just make sure I'm mixing it round. They do take a little bit longer to activate, these ones. I'm just going to wipe off the excess and bring that colour down. Straight into the darker one. And the very darkest. This is a beautiful shade. It's almost got bits of glitter in it, this one. Switch over to the other brush now, which has got more frayed edges, and now that the paint's drying ever so slightly, right, I think I'm quite happy with the placement of them. So let's dry it again, and then we'll be able to use the masking, I can't quite remember the name of it, the masking fluid remover thingy-bob. Yeah. So while I've just used the heat gun on it, I'm still going to leave it another 10-15 minutes. I want to make sure that that paper is 100% dry before I attempt to take any of the masking fluid off. So we'll be right back. So I'm quite confident now that that is fully dried. And let's keep our fingers crossed that this will come off cleanly. Now, I have made a mess on the opposite page, so I'm going to have to be very, very creative with how I'm going to fix this. But it doesn't bother me. I will be able to fix it. I will do something to fix it. That's the fun about this watercolouring. It does turn out different every time. I'll try and emulate this as best as I can and do some sort of tutorial, but it'll turn out how it turns out. That's just the way that it goes. So I'll link this down below, because I don't actually particularly remember what it's called. I don't know if it's just a masking fluid remover, but it works a treat. Let me see if I can get this on camera. I'll just bring you in. It started it off, and now, can you see that? Just pull it off, because I did put it down in quite a thick layer to show you how it works. But I find this fun in itself. Do you remember being in school? Well, I did it in primary school. I used to put PVA glue on my hand and peel it off, and you'd say, oh, your skin's falling off. Do you remember? We used to do it all the time. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah, this is really, really fun. I prefer this masking fluid over any of the others I've tried. See? So, wrap around. Bring you our heats just in case I'm missing little bits. But it does come out and off. Lovely. Not like I was struggling with the last one. Just got to be careful with the corner of the pages. Don't want to rip them. I know that you can just use your finger, but I prefer using this. And again, we're going to be able to rip this off in one good chunk. Yeah, I think we are. Superb. And this very top one, we'll do this corner first. And let's pull that off. And then move down to this very last bit. I've got one star that we've missed here as well. It's really, really cheap as well, this masking fluid, for that big tub. It was about £5, and considering I was paying £7 or £8 for them pens each, I'm really, really happy with this purchase. Really happy. So what's happened at the top here? The paper was a little bit damp. I didn't dry this top corner very well, so we'll have to cover that up. But you can see how easy that was to remove. So let me take the masking tape off. Now this is where I really do hold my breath. I have been reading some of your comments. I do need to sit there and go through and reply to everyone about the different masking tapes. Oh, we've got a bit of ripping. And I've moved a couple onto my Amazon list that I will purchase and try out. I'm really, really dreading taking this off now. Take the first layer off. This is where we've got the issue, where it's really, really damp. I think I'm going to have a problem here. So if I can glue it back down, I will. Let's take that little edge off there, you see, that very, very corner. Not the end of the world. I can go over that with a bit of black paint, which I might actually do right now with a smaller brush, just to see if I can hide that a little bit. Put a bit of blue in there, let's wet it a little bit more. It's not perfect, but that is better than the white of the paper showing. Anyway, that is how I do this background. So a lot more paint, a different technique, and like I said, if you wanted it similar to this size, you're just going to go in 4 corners. But I didn't want to make it identical, considering I'm classing this as a double page spread now, which it certainly isn't, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. But I hope that you got some ideas. I will try my best to link everything down below in the description, what I've used. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm going to try my best in the next day or two to sit down and go through all of the comments on my videos. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!